Hi again, this is your Brother Buckeye, Doug Daniels, and the Brother Buckeye broadcast. The second one that we're doing today, I'm not sure if I've ever done two in one day. The earlier one, we covered the comments of Ryan Day at his speed round Zoom press conference. And we also talked about Tom Allen's comments and observations at his regular Monday press conference. So you can see that one. In fact, I think it's still premiering right now. This one, as I promised, we're going to go over the Big Ten games. I'm going to make predictions. All of college football as well. And if you missed the first broadcast today, I do predict Ohio State will beat Indiana 50-20. If Indiana plays really well. If they don't play well at all and it just becomes a cluster, then I think Ohio State will win something like 62-13, 62-16, something like that. But if Indiana, at least gives Ohio State a decent first half, then I think a 50-20 score is more likely. Now, if it ends up being something like 38-27 or 23, that's not going to be a good sign for the season at all. Don't think that's going to happen, but who would have thought Ohio State would beat Northwestern just 21-7 last year? Okay? So here we go. I'm going to, in no particular order, I'm going to go over the games, going to tell you who I think is going to win. Some cases there will be some detail, and many cases there won't be. I thought I was just going to do this where I was going to pick who I thought was going to win. Then I decided to go ahead and put the spread in here as well. I am not an expert on that. This is for entertainment purposes only. But we will cover all the games. So UCF to beat Kent. Enough said. North Carolina State over UConn, but I wouldn't be surprised with a Husky win. Florida over Utah. This would be my first upset of the weekend. Cameron Rising is not playing in the Utah game, although it is going to be at Utah. So that's a long way to go from Florida to Utah. You got a little bit of a higher elevation going on there. But Cameron Rising is such a great, great player. I'm surprised that he doesn't get mentioned more in regards to the Heisman race. Certainly he's the toughest nut in college football. So Florida over Utah, that would be an upset, and that's where I'm going. I'm very tempted to take Nebraska over the Gophers tonight because Rule is that good of a coach. And the Cornhuskers actually have the 21st rated roster based on talent and the recruiting rankings. I didn't realize that even with all of the trials and tribulations of Scott Frost, the actual roster, and of course that includes a lot of players that Matt Rule brought in via transfer, is the 21st best in the country. Now, can he put all those pieces together and come up with a great bowl season? I think maybe, and it could start tonight. But it's in Minneapolis, and if you listen to a previous program that I had where I was predicting all of the records of the Big Ten teams, I do have Minnesota along with Wisconsin having 10-2 regular seasons, with Minnesota actually winning the Big Ten West. If Nebraska beats the Gophers tonight, literally all bets are off on that one. By the way, Minnesota only has the 56th most talented roster according to those calculations. That should be a show that we do as well, to do, kind of look at that and see that some of these disparities are far greater than you think. Alrighty. PJ Fleck is a Jim Tressel protege, so I know he's kind of oddball, and I don't think he looks or sounds the same that he used to. I don't know what's been going on in recent years. Maybe it's his aging, the fact that he has no hair anymore. But I would like to see Minnesota have the season that I predicted, but it would not surprise me at all if Nebraska won the game tonight. Michigan State over Central Michigan, although this could be one of those Mac attacks that down a Big Ten brother. I'm going to go with the Spartans because they can't be as bad as they were last year, right? Now, is it cool that the two Miamis are playing each other? I'm not sure if that's ever happened before, the U and Miami of Ohio. For you youngsters out there, would you believe that in the 60s and 70s, Miami of Ohio was a consistently better program than the U? Miami of Ohio was consistently ranked in the top 20 teams. They didn't even have a top 25 back then, but they would often be in the top 20. I think one year they finished number 10. But that was 40 to 50 years ago. It's not relevant to today, so I'm going with the Hurricane. And we we just saw what hurricanes can do. Louisville, over the wreck of Georgia Tech. Enough said. I've got Hawaii possibly upsetting Stanford. I'm not sure if it would even be a Stanford, but it would be it would be an embarrassment for the Pac-12, a conference that exists for the next few months. Yikes. If Stanford loses to Hawaii, yikes. Michigan to beat East Carolina. I think it's going to be closer than that 35-point spread. I think it's going to be closer to 25. I think Harbaugh not being on the sideline will make some bit of a difference. I just don't think, what's his name? J.J. McCarthy, their September Heisman winner. He only completed 56% of his passes the last 7 games of the year. Think about that. When they had to throw more versus Ohio State and TCU, he wasn't that great at it. And they don't have Ronnie Bell this year. So I think J.J. McCarthy is a wonderful college quarterback. I am not sold on him being that next level kind of player. But they will win. Tennessee beats UVA, but not by 26 points, okay? TCU to beat Colorado and Coach Prime, but not by the 16-point spread. So TCU, yes. But if the Colorado Buffaloes play it close and kind of plays an exciting brand of ball, then I think it'll be a good day for Coach Prime. Oklahoma to beat Arkansas State and cover, but if they don't, Venerable becomes vulnerable very, very quickly. Now, this could be a true upset in the Iowa-Utah State game. I would have been picking Iowa without reservation, but McNamara is not going to be starting in the game and won't be playing. Utah State sometimes is pretty decent. They usually don't suck. The game's in Iowa City, so the Hawkeyes will win, but I don't believe they cover. Bowling Green to cover, but lose to Liberty. Bowling Green to cover, but lose to Liberty. Fresno State covers the spread and beats Purdue outright at Ross 8. I know that this is a bold prediction. Until I see what Purdue is going to look like under this defensive coach, Walters, and I know he was the defensive coach at Illinois, but Illinois had great players that Walters had very little to do with, I think. I don't believe he recruited those guys. Could be wrong on that, but Fresno State is one of those Mountain West teams that's pretty good. They were decent last year, so even though it's going to be at Ross 8, I'm picking the Bulldogs to certainly cover the spread and beat Purdue outright. SMU beats La Tech, but Tech covers. That's where I was living. I was living in that area, Ruston, not far from Ruston. They're a pretty good team. They have some pretty good players. A lot of those Louisiana kids that don't get offers from LSU will stay north instead of going down to play for the Cajuns. They'll stay north and go to the first choice is Louisiana Tech. Second choice is Louisiana Monroe. Third choice is Grambling State, and they're all within 30 miles of each other. They love their football in Louisiana. All righty, let's go to the next one. I'm not a Hafley fan, Jeff Hafley fan. I thought he was great at Ohio State, but as a head coach, I thought that was one of those examples of somebody who was really good college coordinator on a big stage with Ohio State, getting a job he may not have been yet qualified for. He hasn't had that much success at Boston College, and that's what worries me a little bit about Walters at Purdue. However, Northern Illinois isn't the same caliber program that they were when they came into the shoe in 2015 and made Ohio State play 4 quarters. So Boston College wins. I don't think they cover. Temple over Akron, but it may be close. Michael Penix, too good to lose to Boise State unless he gets injured. Then, again, all bets are off. Boise always plays their Pac-12 opponents very well, and if this was on the Smurf turf, I would go with Boise and the Potato Heads, but it's in the doghouse by the sea. Washington wins and covers, but not by much. Fickle won't be buffaloed in his Badger debut. The Cheeseheads are favored by 22. Fate can be fickle, but after some growing pains, Wisconsin wins by less than the 22 they're favored by. They'll win, but they will not cover. UMass is in the game for a minute. They're the Minutemen. Then Auburn rolls and covers the 40-point spread. Could be wrong. Future opponent, Western Kentucky, deep fries the USF Mountain Oysters, but they don't cover the spread. So Western Kentucky wins, but they don't cover the spread versus USF. The North Texas Mean Green also embarrasses the Pale 12. California loses to the Mean Green. Wasn't that like a made-up team in a movie too? There's another one coming up. My son graduated from Nevada Reno. He'll be happy if the Wolfpack avoids embarrassment versus the USC Trojans. I think they might. USC is favored by 36. Their defense is bad. Again, I think a late touchdown by the Divorcees. Look it up. Covers the spread, although they do make Caleb Williams look like a Heisman lock. The Aggies have to be better than last year's debacle, right? Jimbo Fisher. They won't get much bite from the Lobos of New Mexico, so Jimbo avoids the critics for at least 1 week. Louisiana Monroe, again, that was in my backyard 2 years ago. I think they beat Army. I'm very bully on Army usually. But this game is going to be in Monroe. I think just for sentimental reasons, I'm going to go with, I think they're called the Warhawks. And Navy looked so bad versus Notre Dame. I'm kind of wondering if there's something going on with the service academies all of a sudden. Rice gets stir-fried by the Longhorns. Texas wins and covers in this steaming hot mess of a matchup. Washington State is favored by 15 over the Colorado State Rams. The Cougars win, making my son happy, who also attended Washington State. Graduated from Nevada Reno, but he spent his first 2 years at the Tri-Cities campus of Washington State. But the not ready for primetime Rams do cover in that one. How badly will the Baylor Bears beat the once fictitious Texas State Bobcats? Without Rule, the thumb is sideways, meaning that they win but they don't cover. UTSA sounds more like an airline than a football program, but they're the Road Runners. So there's that. This is one of the smallest spreads of the week. Not sure this is the same UTSA that beat Illinois a few seasons ago, but their QB is the real deal. So I'm going to go with the Road Runners to win outright over the Houston MILFs. Beep, beep. Alabama and Middle Tennessee State. Why? As exciting as a weekend. This game will be as exciting as a weekend an hour outside of Nashville. The Tide will roll, but not generate enough offense to cover that 36-point spread in this person's opinion. Penn State is favored by 17 based on the hype train. This should be an easy call, but I lived in West Virginia for 14 years, and my wife and son were born there as well. Not convinced yet that Aller, or is it Aller, is the second coming of Kerry Collins. P.S. The Nittany. Now, I could stop now and start recording this all over again or do some editing, but I do not have the time for that. So, I'm not convinced that Drew Aller is the second coming of Kerry Collins. Penn State wins, but the Hillbillies won't be setting couches on fire, which is good news for the Whitakers. Do you know that reference? Look it up. Look up the Whitakers on YouTube and then be amazed. And easily one of the best games of the weekend, the slightly more enlightened North Carolina, takes on the Cox of Columbia, South Carolina. Now, I worked at a Columbia radio station for 1 week. They were way too proud of their Confederate flag flying over the state capitol for me. And they started the Civil War with the attack on Fort Sumter, right? So fuck them. The heels tar the game hens. You'll probably never hear me say that again. But one time, yes. F them. The Illini will be taking, or actually the Illini will be asking Toledo, is that a rocket in your pocket or are you just happy to be here? And then the Rockets will explain that no one is ever happy, really, to be in Champaign-Urbana. Then the team led by Whataburger Bulimia. No, furthest from that truth. Whataburger Bielema will find a way to not get called for an on-field interference infraction by making sure he stands 10 feet back of the sideline, where the city of Toledo will lose as their punishment for wearing scum colors. While you can tell that I didn't rehearse this. While covering the spread, however, which will be an easier task than Bert's winter jacket's attempt at hiding the big bee's belly. Whew! I should have at least practiced that once, right? Oh well. Texas Tech, Wyoming, who cares? Tulane and South Alabama, nope. Virginia Tech and ODU, nobody got time for that. BYU and Sam Houston State. Now, here's one I want to talk about. Did you know that Sam Houston ran away from home as a child and lived with the Cherokee Indians or indigenous Cherokee for 3 years? I did not know that. They called him Raven. He owned slaves, but he was against Texas becoming a Confederate state. I couldn't find a line for this. BYU, Sam Houston State. I hope nobody wins. UCLA versus Coastal Carolina. The future Big Ten member needs to win this one or they should be exiled to the Mountain West. CCU has been pretty good the last few years. Now, I would be rooting for these cocks if I wasn't trying to show I know what the hell I'm talking about. Bruins win. They don't cover. Go Chanticleers. By the way, they're a rooster, which is why I referenced Cox there. Kind of going back to the South Carolina thing. Yeah. Are you catching what I'm laying down? Rutgers versus Northwestern. I'm pissed because I can no longer refer to the Wildcats as the Fighting Fitzes. So I will revert back to what we used to love to call them, the Wildcats. Here, kitty, kitty, kitty. Since they have done just that, reverted back, they're practically a program in a fetal position these days. The Woodchoppers from Piscataway win and cover, but don't watch. you'll never be able to unsee the horror. The horror. And if you got that reference, you are as old as I am. Oregon State previews their future when they take on San Jose State, who's already played one game. How did the Beeve get suckered into playing away to San Jose? And do they know the way to San Jose? Maybe Eddie knows. But Eddie's dead. The best thing that the West Coast OSU had going for itself was Tristan Gebbia, and now he's with the OSU. The Beavers may dam up the Spartans Saturday, but they won't cover. So did you get that? I think Oregon State will win, but not by much. And those were all references to Leave It to Beaver, in case you weren't following. I've been known to be a bit esoteric. And finally, the last one, drum roll. By the way, my son loves me. He went out and got some of this, that's that Korean chicken, that spicy Korean chicken. He bought some and he offered it to me. He almost never does that. And he loves onion rings. He's sharing his onion rings and his South Korean chicken. He loves me. He really loves me. One of these days I'll have him on the show because he used to love college football. When he was like 5 years old, 6 years old, he could tell you every team, every mascot, and every city these teams were in. He memorized the entire 132 teams as it existed when he was 5, 6 years old. That would have been 25 years ago. Kid's brilliant. Hard to believe he came from me. So finally, Louisiana State University versus Florida State. That's going to be a Sunday night game. Now, this game is literally the closest call of the weekend. The spread is 1, favoring the Tigers. It's at a neutral site, Camping World Stadium in the City of the Mouse. Now, my boss at Mattress Firm, Michael DeBouchel, grew up in Baton Rouge. I want him to be happy. I want him to be a happy camper this weekend because it's our most important weekend of the year at Mattress Firm. It's the Labor Day weekend sale. Best pricing of the year. $400 off Beauty Rest Blacks. Discounts on Tempur-Pedic, and they are never discounts on Tempur-Pedic. Everything is marked down. Come see me. I'm going to be at the Diamond Store at the corner of Morris and Stelzer Friday and Sunday. I'm going to be at the Easton Store, which is just about a mile and a half near the Starbucks over there in the Easton area on Saturday. Not sure where I'm going to be on Monday. I don't think that far ahead. So let's go Tigers. Beat the Noles. Make my boss happy. Yep. He's happy. I'll be happy. You'll be happy if you come in and get that new mattress or that adjustable frame or that bed for your kid or your camper. By the way, all these picks are for entertainment purposes. I do not suggest that I'm an expert. I've never bet on a football game in my life, but I do see the future. I mean, I actually do. And someday I'll share those stories, but I have seen things before they have happened, and it's kind of scary stuff. So hopefully we won't be scared with what happens at about 7 o'clock Saturday afternoon when the Ohio State-Indiana game should be coming to a close. I'm predicting 50-20, could be 62-13 or 16. Again, if it ends up being something like 41-27, that ain't good. Don't think it's going to happen. Hey, thanks for being with me again with the Brother Buckeye broadcast. I'm your brother Buckeye Doug Daniels. If you enjoy this kind of fun thing that I'm doing, from a strictly fans point of view. Subscribe, tell your friends, do some sharing, hit the notification bell, like the video, and comment below. Tell me what you think, what you agree or disagree with in terms of these picks. And I will, at the end of the holiday weekend, I'll do a follow-up show and we'll compare notes and see how I did and how you did. Probably still won't be putting any money down. Hey, make it a great day. It's the Minnesota-Nebraska game tonight. To me, this is truly the beginning of the college football season with that game. I'll be watching. I hope and know that you will be too. Hey, join me at 247 Ohio State. Used to be the scout site. I'm there as Radio 1979, and I share my opinions and post some funny memes as well. We have a really great community there. If you're a Buckeye fan and you like to interact with people who aren't too bananas, come on over. The water's fine.